a new economic golden rule splitting savings between cutting the deficit and lowering taxes, and pledging £47 billion in cuts with £9 billion in new spending. Ms Badenoch told party members only the Conservatives can restore a strong economy and secure borders, accusing Labour of a borrowing and tax doom loop. Now, the man who carried out the Manchester synagogue attack made a 999 call in which he pledged allegiance to the so-called Islamic State group. Jihad al-Shami was shot dead by police outside the Heaton Park Hebrew Congregation Synagogue after a car and knife attack that saw 2 Jewish men killed. The call was made after al-Shami's car hit a wall after he drove into worshippers. Melvin Kravitz, 66, and 53-year-old Adrian Dalby died in the attack. Meanwhile, in a fresh update, police said 4 more people arrested during the investigation were set to be released without charge. The head of Counter-Terror Police Northwest spoke this evening.
Minutes after the first call was made to GMP, and as firearms officers were making their way to the scene, al-Shami called 999, claiming responsibility for the attack. He also pledged allegiance to Islamic State. We are more confident that he was influenced by extreme Islamist ideology, and the 999 call forms part of this assessment. It's important to stress that we look across all the evidence gathered in order to make our assessment of the motivation behind the attack.
In other news, Sir Keir Starmer is facing mounting pressure after the collapse of a major spy trial involving 2 men accused of working for China. The UK's chief prosecutor says ministers failed to hand over vital evidence despite months of requests from the CPS. Critics claim Labour put ties with Beijing ahead of national security. Calls are now growing for ministers to explain in Parliament how one of the UK's most sensitive spy cases unravelled. And Donald Trump says he could visit the Middle East on Sunday, as he says talks are going very well. Speaking at the White House this evening, the US president said a ceasefire deal is very close. That's as a senior Hamas official said in Egypt today that Hamas and Israel have exchanged lists of detainees to be released on the basis of agreed criteria and numbers. The statement came after the second day of indirect Gaza ceasefire talks between Hamas and Israel, mediated by Egypt and Qatar, which concluded yesterday. The statement also mentioned that the Hamas delegation demonstrated the positivity and sense of responsibility required to achieve necessary progress and finalise the agreement. Currently, mediators are working to remove obstacles to the implementation of the ceasefire agreement. Those are the latest headlines. For now, more from me in an hour.
For all the latest from GB News whilst you're on the go, get the GB News app. Scan the QR code now to download or visit gbnews.com/app.
Good evening, welcome along. So, 35,000 illegal migrants have crossed the English Channel under Sir Keir Starmer's government. And the breaking news tonight is that 1,000 people, 1,000 crossed today alone. But I actually have some more breaking news for you. I can exclusively reveal shocking, unseen footage of human traffickers operating on social media. One of them posted this video yesterday, which appears to suggest that he was in the Afghan Special Forces. Now, what you're looking at on your screens right now are pictures that they posted with guns and wads of cash. Can we keep that on the screen for a second? Because the uniform that that man was wearing in that video is actually the same uniform that was posted in news articles about UK Special Forces training Afghan Special Forces. So can you imagine, seriously, if it turns out that this guy is a UK-trained member of the Afghan Special Forces who is now a human trafficker? There are also worrying pictures as well, like this, of them wearing face masks, giving us a bit of a menacing stare there, and that single finger pointing to the sky, which has all the similarities of the infamous Islamist one finger, which means apparently Tawheed, which is there is no God but Allah. This video is from just over a week ago, which shows illegals piling onto a boat and heading to Britain. They are also brazenly posting pictures of what appear to be the Chinese-made mega dinghies that have started crossing, carrying more than 100 people on board. So that's all the information that we've got there. We've just had a major terrorist attack in Britain. But please let it never be said that GB News didn't try to warn you and everyone about the potentially UK-trained Afghan Special Forces operatives, gun-carrying gangsters, illegally smuggling people into Britain as we speak. Let's get the thoughts of my panel. We've got Director of Public Services Mark Littlewood, businessman and activist Adam Brooks, and journalist Nina Mishkov. Right, so 1,000 people today alone, more than 1,000 today alone, and that bloke there who appears to be a member of the Afghan Special Forces, from what we can gather, is active now. He's active now. That video was posted on his WhatsApp story yesterday. Yeah,
I mean, it seems to me that you and GB News are doing a bit more to smash the gangs than the UK government. Unbelievable, the paucity of the response from the UK government. There are ways to solve this. Look, it's no surprise to me that the sort of people involved in these gangs are nasty chaps, and the fact that it could be somebody who's gone rogue from some special forces thing, I guess that's to be expected. But what the government's got to do is got to call a national emergency. It's got to make it plain that if you come in from a country that is a safe haven already, like France, we will not entertain a claim for you to stay here or claim welfare, and that you will be deported either to your place of origin or to a third country. That needs to be done and carried out. Now, this government's now had more than a year, and it behaves as if it's just conducting some rain dance, that if they actually repeat over and over again, smash the gangs will fall away. They do the same with economic growth. It's absolutely unbelievable. And I was willing to give them a bit of time to put in place some systems to get this right, but I have no idea and no confidence what those systems might be. They're trying to ignore away the problem, and that is a disaster.
Look, we have just had, by the way, we're going to talk about this later, Mr Jihad the Jihadi with 3 wives, who called Manchester police to tell them that he was a member of Islamic State and was killing Jews on their behalf. But, of course, as you will have seen from that clip in the bulletins, Manchester police are still working to identify a motive. But this stuff is happening right now in Britain, and there appears to be a highly trained member of the Afghan Special Forces there. Didn't particularly feel like sticking around to fight the Taliban, but he'll go to Calais and help bring people over to Britain.
Look, the worrying thing is Mr Jihad, that committed that heinous crime last week, basically grew up here a large chunk of his life. So he's sort of westernised, and that's scary that that man can then go on and do the atrocity that he did. We are now importing men from villages in Afghanistan, from so-called war zones, that have seen butchery, that have seen people stabbed, murdered, their heads cut off, and now they are plonking them in hotels next to schools like in Epping. 1,000 people today. That's like another 6 Bell hotels that have just arrived today. That is the problem that we've got. And it's not just 1,000 that come now. In a few years, they always bring 4 or 5 family members. They might be distant family members, but they always con the Home Office and get them family members over. So today alone, we've probably just had 5,000 come over for the next few years in one day.
Well, it's actually, they don't even have to do it that way if they don't want, because there was a Labour mayor who was being investigated for trying to bring several dozen members of his family and friends over from Bangladesh. So, you know, you could just do it that way, I suppose. So this is some of the footage from the channel. Just before I put this in, Nina, I don't know if we might be able to just remind our viewers and listeners the Afghan Special Forces clip that we played during that monologue there, if that's possible for us. Brilliant. Yeah, let's just bring that up again, please. Thank you. So for a bit of context, there with these skeleton masks on, they're exactly the same as when we were training the Afghan Special Forces, we released pictures of them being trained, and they all had the skeleton masks on as well. So it really would appear to add up. He's put a big arrow on it. It was on his WhatsApp story. He's trying to say that's him. But what do you make? Is that a very present danger, Nina, do you think, to us?
There are always dangers.
Jesus.
Oh, go on.
I've said less than half a dozen words, and you're sighing.
There's always dangers, but we're importing them.
Go on. Let's
But hang on, you have no idea what I was about to say. The fact that 1,000 people came over today is a disaster, basically. It's always been a disaster, this whole problem, and it will continue to be a disaster until the weather changes. And thank God, you know, in this instance, winter is coming, and there won't be the same crowds, and they're trying to cram them in before the weather turns bad. I have enormous confidence in Shabana Mahmood. I think she is cracking down. I think she will make things turn around faster. As for bringing relatives across, they're already tightening that up. And in terms of legal migrants, they are tightening that up as well. For instance, Keir Starmer is in India today with meeting with Prime Minister Modi tomorrow. It's a big business thing. There's 125 trade delegation from Britain, which should bring us financial gains. But I assume tomorrow that he will be discussing the whole migrant thing, because the story was always going to be that in return for a trade deal, we would give far more visas, and he's made it very clear that that's not going to happen. About 250,000 Indians come here to study or to work, and that's not. It's
interesting we mentioned the Indians, though, actually, because it has just reminded me of, you know, as part of this 150 in, 1 out deal that we've got with the French, one of those people that we sent back to France was an Indian man that we then decided that the French could deport to India, but perhaps we couldn't, which is a remarkable thing. I mean, we've actually, on this plane that Nina's mentioned, we've sent more people to India, haven't we, than we've actually managed to deport there. But again, though, it does come back to this, which is that monitoring social media, putting in a little bit of graft and getting WhatsApp contact details of some of these human traffickers, we are able to identify them with weapons, with potentially very dangerous pasts, etc. You know, why is it us doing this? You know, why?
Well, it is extraordinary. I mean, bear in mind, obviously, we don't have full jurisdiction of people in Calais, right? So I don't think our supposedly wonderful relationship with the French, which was all supposed to be cemented over recent weeks, is delivering the goods, is it? It's the French police force that need to be picking them up. And as I've argued endlessly on this programme, I think we should pay the French by results, not with a block grant every year to get these people lifted. But to Nina's point about Shabana Mahmood, our newish Home Secretary, I mean, what do we genuinely think Nina's going to change in 6 months? If we're sat on this sofa in 6 months' time, I agree with you that there might be some tightening of what they call chain migration, so you can't bring in your great aunt and your distant cousins and all the rest of it. I haven't heard anything else from her about what she's going to tighten up.
I think she's come in and she has stamped her feet, and things will happen. I think they really will.
It'd be good for her to articulate what those things are, wouldn't it?
Well, I have no idea what they are. I have no idea what they might be. The thing is, as you say about these guys operating, these Afghanis operating there, as Mark said, you know, as you said, you can't have British police going over there. You can't have the British Army rounding them up.
No, fine. Sorry, what I was trying to get on the screen then was this picture. So this is a Balaclava. Now, sorry, I don't know about the viewers and listeners there, but for me, when I saw that picture, the first thing I thought was Jihadi John.
Yeah.
So the kind of same menacing look in the eyes, the finger in the air, the kind of balaclava style thing. So we combine that with, you know, the guns, the money, the Afghan Special Forces thing. You know, sometimes when people tell you things, you should just believe them, shouldn't you? like that guy.
Look,
yeah, go on.
Patrick, if there's anyone at home watching this that does not believe that we haven't got Hezbollah, Hamas, Houthi rebels, Al-Qaeda, ISIS fighters in these hotels, they're away with the fairies, because it's pretty obvious that we have, and it's pretty obvious that it's easy to get them into France and then just stick them on a dinghy and we put them up in a 3-star hotel and feed them until they decide to do something terrible.
The thing is, we don't know that, and there may be, who knows, 1 or 2, maybe half a dozen, but the bulk of them we haven't. You can't possibly.
How do you know?
I'm saying, well, how do you know? You can't possibly taint all these people as rapists, murderers.
We've
become
seen
like
enough
Donald Trump.
rapes and we've seen enough sexual assault to know that there's a serious problem within these hotels.
Well, there is in the Bell and Epping there were 2 men. Is that right?
There's been 2 men arrested on assaults and sexual assault.
Okay.
There's been a man that's been
and that
arrested
time,
on arson.
how many British men who are resident here have been arrested for sexual assault and rape?
Proportionately fewer. I think here's the worry, Nina, isn't it? And Patrick, you were alluding to this. It's speculative. You can't say it for certain. But it would be one thing if you saw these the people running these gangs saying, come this way, you'll get a free meal ticket, you'll get a PlayStation, you'll get to live in a hotel that's better than your living conditions at home. I mean, that would still be disastrous in terms of the public finances, but you wouldn't see that as a clear and present danger. Now, reading between the lines here, there seems to be more, we can get you over there if you're some sort of jihadist. Yeah. I mean, I'm making a bit of a leap there, but the pitch doesn't seem to be, you know, we can put you in a nice hotel in Epping and get you 3 square meals a day. I mean, the pitch seems to be something rather nastier than that, doesn't it?
Because on that, it's a good point, because obviously regular viewers and listeners on this show, and we know we've done this kind of thing a couple of times, to say the least, before. But there are different types of people who do these adverts. Some of them it is the boats, and it is, oh, look at this lovely food in the camp, and here's a hotel, and there's someone spraying some £20 notes around like a Premier Inn in Maidenhead or something. But that is a bloke basically saying, you know, I'm Mr. Jihad Mark II. Yeah. And for people to look at him and go, you're my guy, I think is a very, very, very concerning thing. It will also turn out to be a huge slap in the face of Britain. We've had recently the Afghan scheme, which we were lied to about, really, about the Afghan scheme initially, where they'd been flying in a load of Afghans. Turned out that some of them were going back home to Afghanistan for their holidays. Turned out we've had the nephew of a Taliban commander who then brought over, I think it was 8 relatives or something along those lines.
That were already safe in Turkey.
Yeah, we've been giving various different pieces of accommodation earmarked for Brits and armed forces to the Afghans. If it turns out that a bloke that we have trained to fight in the Afghan National Army is just a card-carrying human trafficker, and maybe quite radical as well, that's another massive slap in the face.
And it looks intentional. No, I'm not being conspiracy theorists. It looks like it's being allowed to happen, and you have to ask why.
Allowed to happen by whom?
I don't know, you tell me.
Well, I mean, you're saying that's allowed to happen.
Our authorities cannot be this stupid, Nina. Someone somewhere is not doing their job.
So are you saying that the authorities are allowing this to happen without doing anything about it?
There's certainly a lot of negligence. Yes. And, I mean, the big worrying thing is if you're putting up those videos on social media, they are intended to appeal to people who look at them and think, yeah, that's the guy I want as my tour guide. Yeah, that's the sort of guy I want. Yeah, you're speaking to my soul. He's the guy I'm going to employ.
What do you say the authorities, and who do you mean by the authorities? Madam.
I'm assuming,
Border Force.
Assuming me security service, but I mean, they would obviously deny it. But I mean, no, just for the sake of it, we didn't actually name check them anyway. But I just want to trying to be fair anyway. You know, the NCA and people like that would say that they're massively overwhelmed, that they are doing a great job, and we probably don't hear about half of the things that they stop. To that, I would probably say maybe we should hear about it.
Yeah, we should.
It might shut us up a bit. Yeah. But anyway, right, before I tell you what's coming up next, you are going to like it, by the way. It's time now for the Great British Giveaway. You know what it is. Massive motorhome, loads of cash. Here's how.
You're not going to want to miss our greatest Great British giveaway so far. You could bank an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. And if that wasn't enough, you'll also get to drive away in this brand new motorhome. With thanks to Marquis Leisure, this brand new 2025 Benimar Primero could be yours. It comes with all the mod cons you'd expect from a vehicle worth over £74,000 and comfortably sleeps 4 people. This prize package is worth over £104,000. And remember, if you can dream it, you can drive it away. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. The winner will be contacted live on GB News, week commencing 10th November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Did somebody say massive scandal?
So it wasn't as well this government's position, it was the Tory government before's position. Now that's not a political to and fro, that's a matter of law.
Or let's just see if that stays true, Sir Keir Starmer, because a massive war of words has broken out. The Director of Public Prosecutions is blaming the Prime Minister for the collapse of a China spy trial. Is this something that could bring down the government? Also, every single black Brit deserves slavery reparations. Not my words, the words of comedian Sir Lenny Henry. Apparently, he wasn't joking about this, though. We're going to be talking about that next.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country. There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor. Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Stamp duty ECHR, tax on education. Ban doctors from going on strike.
Well, very keen to see what you make of Kemi Badenoch's speech today. I particularly like the stamp duty bit, but we'll talk about that shortly. Yeah, and whether or not she's giving Nigel Farage a run for his money. But first, should every single black Brit be paid slavery reparations? Time for that, Dad. Not one of Sir Lenny Henry's better jokes, I must say, but he's said it nonetheless. He's claimed that individual black Brits should receive reparation payments. Writing in a new book, the comedian argues, and I'm quoting here now, all black British people need reparations for slavery. The reason we have racism today, and also why black British people are grossly overrepresented in the prison population, is all because of the transatlantic slave trade. Right, quite a lot to unpack there. The book estimates that the reparations could come with an eye-watering £100 trillion price tag. But his proposition seems to have raised more questions than answers. So let's have a look at some of the details, shall we? Most of Britain's 2.4 million black population is of direct African descent, and therefore not the descendants of people enslaved in the Caribbean. And Henry also doesn't address whether or not black illegal migrants who get given a British passport someday might be entitled to those payments. So tonight I am asking, I think we know the answer to this, but I'll ask it anyway. Should every single black Brit be paid slavery reparations? We have got one of our guests on this at the moment, but Councillor Ron Mashisho. Ron, thank you very much. Tremendous to see you again, my good man. It's just you and me this time, so probably just as well, really, on this. Straight down the line, then, you know, should every single black Brit get slavery reparations?
I think this is Lenny Henry's better jokes because he's got us talking about his book that is coming out. But the answer to your question is absolutely not. I mean, where do you start with that? Firstly, I am of African descent, so my ancestors never experienced the transatlantic slave trade. So do I now get reparation? Actually, Lenny, I don't want it.
Well, oh, OK, why not?
Well, I'll tell you why. It's because I don't want to live in a society where everyone knows that they are victims. We are a people that are proud, we are enterprising, and we are moving forward as a society. Africa is moving forward, Britain is moving forward. We have a black leader of the Conservative Party. We are not victims. And Lenny Henry is trying to take us backwards by getting us to think about, you know, being basically, we need money in order to actually advance our own fates.
Is it actually quite offensive? I've not really looked at it that way before, but is it actually, I don't know, do you find it borderline a bit offensive?
No, no, it's not offensive because I do understand that obviously there are people, friends of mine, in fact, from Jamaican and American descent, who feel strongly that the slave trade was an injustice to them. But that's history. And I think history has to be remembered, and that's really important that we remember our history. But we don't use the modern moral virtues that we have now against something that happened, you know, in the 17th century, 18th century, 19th century. We need to think and look back to the history, learn from it, so that we don't repeat itself. And you know what, Patrick, the one thing I would say about this, this whole episode is that for us understanding the historical causes of slavery, I mean, slavery has been around beyond, long beyond the transatlantic slavery. But if we understand the history of it, we improve society, we improve the humanity. We don't go back and cancel history and ask for reparations. I mean, where do you start? You might go back to Roman times, and you, Patrick, might have to be asking for some reparations from Rome.
Yes, or I don't know, the Normans. I'm not sure. I'd have to trace my family tree back. I don't think from the Irish and Greeks halves of me. I'm not sure who would be claiming reparations off there, but possibly the British again. We can do the Irish sense, maybe. You never know. But can I ask you? Oh, go on. You go. Go on.
The worrying thing for me is that we are creating a society of dependence, of victimhood. You know, I am in my other job, I'm a teacher, and I don't want to teach our young black children that they are victims all the time. I mean, where do you stop? For example, if you have an ambition to get somewhere, and all of a sudden you think that because of slave trade, you can be prime minister of this country, or you can be the leader of the opposition because of the slave trade. It stops your ambition. It stops your
Just on that, can I ask you, because there was another section to this which has gone under the radar because we're all focusing on the amount of, I mean, this ludicrous sum of money. I don't even know what 100 trillion quid looks like written down. But there's this thing that he says, that why black British people are grossly overrepresented in the prison population is all because of the transatlantic slave trade. I just wonder if that's a bit lazy, really, to try to make that statement. What do you think?
It is very lazy. Now, as someone who was fostered, a fostered child, fostered children actually are overly represented in the judicial system in this country. And I believe the former Foreign Secretary, David Lammy, did do a study a few years ago and found that, yes, black people are disproportionately affected. And that's true. That's empirically true. But to blame it all on the slave trade, that's the wrong thing to do. I think I would like we need to explore this idea of tolerance, for example, because tolerance is such a spectrum of an ideal or a virtue. Some may call it a virtue, some may call it a vice. But is the idea that we are not being tolerant, that is allowing people to sort of, to just make up their own rules. We need to be a more tolerant society, not in the sense that allowing people to prosper in any way, direction, and form, but tolerance in terms of adhering to the country, to this country's values, to this country's virtues. And I think sometimes we've been intolerant to that. And that's why sometimes we find ourselves in the prisons and being represented.
Well, Ron, thank you very much. Absolute pleasure as always. Great to see you, and wish you all the best. Until next time, as Councillor Ron Machicho there. Well, lots to come. Bit of this.
Free the 48! Free the 48! We don't want no Tuesday! We don't want no Tuesday!
The reason I'm inflicting that on you again this evening is because the Prime Minister wants police to crack down on some of these disgusting chants that we've been hearing at these various, I nearly said Hamas rallies there, fine line, pro-Palestine rallies. However, how on earth are they going to police that? Just seriously. So let's have a chat about that. But before that...
So it wasn't as well this government's position, it was the Tory government before's position. Now, that's not a political to and fro, that's a matter of law.
Oh, I'm not sure how long that line can last, Prime Minister. There's a big China spy scandal that could, well, bring down the Labour government. Stay tuned.
Be nice to escape the grey.
Clear skies, here we come.
As clear as our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
There are a couple of watch points with the weather across southern Europe as we go through tomorrow. Heavy thundery rain around eastern Spain, and Storm Barbara affecting southeastern parts of Europe, pushing into western Turkey, could bring 100 to 150 millimetres of rain. Elsewhere, lots of dry weather, but like I said, across eastern Spain towards the Balearics, heavy thundery rain through the next few days could bring 200 millimetres or so in some places, which is around 3 times the October average. I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Good evening. This is your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. There is a little bit of rain pushing its way southwards across northern parts through tonight into tomorrow, but many places staying largely dry. The rain in the north is due to a frontal system that's already made its way in across northern and western Scotland, and with this we're seeing the winds strengthening further as we go through the night. Risk of gales in some exposed spots. The rain does also edge its way southwards into southern parts of Scotland, perhaps northern England and Northern Ireland as we head towards dawn tomorrow, but further south across much of England and Wales staying largely dry. Some clear spells around, and with light winds, clear spells, temperatures are going to drop, and there could be some locally dense patches of fog forming as we head through the early hours of tomorrow morning. Otherwise, through tomorrow morning then, a mostly dry start across much of Scotland, the rain having pushed its way in towards the south, and so the borders area waking up to a bit of a damp picture, and also quite damp across Northern Ireland, and there will be a few spots of rain across some parts of northern England where the cloud is thick enough. But across the rest of England and Wales, really, it's a dry start to the day, and there will be some sunshine around, and so that sunshine should help clear any mist and fog patches that do develop overnight. Staying pretty grey, quite murky with low cloud and drizzly rain across Northern Ireland, southern Scotland, parts of northern England and perhaps the far north of Wales as well through tomorrow. Otherwise, a generally dry picture, often quite cloudy, but there should be some sunshine breaking through, and in the sunshine feeling relatively warm with temperatures in the high teens for most of us. Overnight there will be a bit more damp weather pushing into parts of western Scotland. That will clear though as we go through into Friday, and so actually Friday for many, away from perhaps Orkney and Shetland where there'll be a few showery bursts of rain around, actually Friday looks like a largely dry day with some decent sunshine on offer. Quite a bit of cloud to come as we go through this weekend, particularly on Sunday, but most of us will see the sunshine at times. Bye-bye.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
You should see what we have on these people. These are bad people. These are people that want to destroy our country. We're not going to let it happen.
Yeah, welcome back to Patrick Christys tonight. That clip has just landed, and it is President Trump saying that he's going to designate Antifa as a terrorist organisation. He's given a bit more detail on that. It'd be nice if we did some of that over here. However, I want to get stuck into this now because major scandal, actually, and huge questions for the Prime Minister to answer this evening after the UK's top prosecutor claimed that the trial against 2 men accused of spying for China collapsed because this government failed to provide enough evidence, something that, of course, they must have done deliberately. Charges against 2 men were dropped, leading to a backlash from MPs on all sides. But the Director of Public Prosecutions, yes, the man that has Sir Keir Starmer's old job, has now laid the blame firmly at the Prime Minister's door, claiming that for more than a year, the government failed to provide evidence that China was, in fact, an enemy of the state. Now, it's also emerged today that Sir Keir Starmer's National Security Advisor, a man called Jonathan Powell, met with an allegedly malign Chinese group months before entering office. Powell is understood to have chaired a meeting in September at which it was discussed whether or not Britain could describe China as an enemy in the court case without upsetting diplomatic relations with the country. It's very, very murky, this. And by the way, it comes off the back of Ed Miliband refusing to publish details of this mysterious green energy deal that we've done with China. What are we looking at here? I'm joined now by writer and Chatham House military expert Keir Giles. Keir, thank you very much. What's going on here? Is it Comrade Starmer and Chairman Powell?
Well, you mentioned just now that it was murky, and I would like to think that I fully understand just how exactly the government has screwed this up, but it's hard to believe on the face of it that how it's been described by the Director of Public Prosecutions is really true, because it speaks to a degree of ineptitude that is hard to believe even from this government. It seems the evidence that they were waiting for in order to proceed with this prosecution was simply a confirmation by the government that they considered China to be a national security threat. That was the whole basis of the prosecution, and yet the government failed to provide this over the course of a year, as we heard. And that's led to this unprecedented public accusation by the Director of Public Prosecutions, who thinks that this is such an egregious failure by the government that it has to be made public. It is really quite extraordinary.
Look, what are we dealing with here, though? What is the worst case scenario? Is it that people like Jonathan Powell and potentially some people behind the scenes in Labour feel as though either they are compromised by China in ways that we can only imagine, and that therefore they've thrown the case?
Well, there seem to be two things going on here. First of all, there's this incredibly tortuous, legalistic explanation that we've already heard from Keir Starmer for why they couldn't actually say China is a problem, despite the fact that they've said it publicly in so many other fora before now. That's one problem. Again, the government tying itself in these legal knots to the detriment of our national security. We've seen this time and again before. The whole drama over, for example, paying Mauritius to take over Diego Garcia, that strategically important outpost in the Indian Ocean, is a classic example of this. Labour shooting the country in the foot because they take a legalistic interpretation that favours our adversaries rather than ourselves. But then there's the whole other question of being in bed with Chinese business and prioritising that relationship over prosecuting laws in this country.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Mauritius there. I mean, one of the people that stood to gain, one of the countries, sorry, that stood to gain from that Mauritius surrender, Chagos surrender that we did, was China in a big way. And that decision to many people seemed inexplicable. And then you look at this case now, where they're refusing at face value to say that China is an enemy. You've got the fact that Jonathan Powell appears to have had some kind of meetings with China before. I mean, I can just remember now, just off the top of my head, Rachel Reeves went over to China quite recently. Ed Miliband went over to China, is refusing to reveal the details of all of this. Look, I don't want to get too tinfoil hat over this. And again, I will say that, you know, Labour will obviously categorically deny this, and we're going to hear from Keir Starmer shortly. Does the British public have any right to be worried here that our government have been seriously compromised by China?
Well, sadly, it is not just the current Labour government. There is a sad track record of this kind of thing happening, of trade or international relations being prioritised over protecting people in this country against those countries that we want to have that trade and international relations with. If we think back 20 years, there was the assassination of Alexander Litvinenko in this country's capital by Russian intelligence agents, which was not quite brushed under the carpet, but certainly played down because at the time, everybody thought we were going to do good business with Russia. So there's a shameful track record of this. It's not unique to Keir Starmer. It's just that they seem to be coming thicker and faster with this Labour government than ever before.
Yeah. I find it absolutely astonishing now. And let's just hear quickly from Keir Starmer. It's important to hear his side on this. So there we go.
So it wasn't as well this government's position, it was the Tory government before's position. Now that's not a political to and fro, that's a matter of law. You have to prosecute people on the basis of the circumstances at the time of the alleged offence. And so all the focus needs to be on the policy of the Tory government in place then. That's the only place that the evidence could be focused on. And I think that provides a sort of ray of spotlight into some of the issues that have been swirling around.
Now, that is directly contradicted by the Director of Public Prosecutions and the head of the Crown Prosecution Service, who directly, essentially, accuse Labour of political intervention in this case, don't they?
Well, it's also directly contradicted by common sense. It is the classic Labour excuse of everything that happens is the fault of the previous government, no matter what we do on our watch. And also, if you believe what Keir Starmer is saying there, you have to assume that the previous Conservative government never described China as a national security threat. And that is simply not the case.
It's not true. I mean, we all remember the Huawei situation. We all remember that. We can remember it clear as day. Right, well, thank you very much. And again, I will just stress, I know that for people it seems, I don't know, maybe seems a little bit complex or whatever, but this is the kind of thing, it's got the whiff about it here, of the kind of thing that if it got a little bit worse, you know, could be a bit of a nail in the coffin for any government. But Keir, thank you very much. Keir Giles there, who's a writer, Chatham House military expert. Keep your eyes on this China scandal, right? Coming up, bit of this.
Stamp duty, ECHR, tax on education. Ban doctors from going on strike.
We had a whole raft of policies today that actually, if you want to start a business, maybe even like the opportunity to send your kids to private school or buy a house or buy a bigger house, might actually be right up your street. Did Kemi Badenoch actually make the Tories electable again? But before that...
Free the 48! Free the 48! We don't want no Tuesday! We don't want no Tuesday!
Sir Keir Starmer wants to ban certain chants, but how are the police going to police it? Stay tuned.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Beth.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christys here.
I'm Michelle Duke, Britain's News Channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's News Channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power?
Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber.
Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics.
We'll see where this ruling takes us.
These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Coming up, Kemi Badenoch's big speech, but also that jihadi from Manchester, well, Syria, but lived in Manchester, called the police, told them that he was killing Jews on behalf of Islamic State. Why are they only telling us this now? But first, the Prime Minister has demanded the police do more to stop offensive pro-Palestine chants. He was speaking a day after the UK was swept by a wave of those Palestine rallies, the same day as the October 7th massacre. We had mass students gathering at Glasgow University, amongst others, holding a banner saying, "Glory to our martyrs."
Free the 48! Free the 48! We don't want no Tuesday! We don't want no Tuesday!
Yeah, pathetic bunch of vegans, aren't they? But anyway, we've also had things like calls for intifada. Well, you know what we've had, you've lived it. But anyway, Reform UK's police and crime advisor joins us now, Colin Sutton. Colin, thank you very much. My concern is that how do we actually police this?
Well, we police it firmly, and we police it using and applying the existing law. We don't need new laws. We have too many laws. Most of the things that people think are unpleasant and they don't want are actually illegal anyway. But of course, saying we'll give stronger powers, we'll make a new law, gives a lovely soundbite to make it look as if the government are actually doing something about it. But I get astounded virtually on a daily basis now by this government and this Prime Minister. He leads a government with a majority of 148 seats in the House of Commons. And the best he can do about something like this is say, while he's on his flight to India on another one of his excursions, oh, I'll talk to the police, but, you know, it's up to them to do it. No, you're in charge. We want leadership. Tell them what to do.
But it's also what is it? You know, again, is he talking about calls for intifada? Is he talking about death to the IDF? Is he talking... What is it he's talking about? It's a load of meaningless guff that he said from the other side of the world whilst he's jollying it up at the Taj Mahal.
Yeah, I mean, exactly that, Patrick, exactly that. But, you know, political interference, in inverted commas, in policing for many years is a dirty word, but the pendulum, like most pendulums tend to do, has swung too far in the wrong direction. And we've now got a series of chief constables in their own fiefdoms who police according to how they see things, and there is no central control, no central direction. There is a space for that. And if you can't do that when you're leading a government with a massive majority and actually do what you want and keep deflecting and keep saying, oh, it's not really my fault, it's their fault over there. It's the previous government. You know, that's not the sort of government, that's not the sort of leadership that this country needs in the situation where it is.
Yeah, I mean, there is the flip side to it as well, which is that what if he starts hearing chants that he doesn't like at some other rallies, so we all get nicked for that as well? One thing that seemed... can you explain this to me? I thought it was illegal to cover your faces at some of these rallies. I thought there were face covering bans at some of them, but that doesn't seem to apply if you happen to like Hamas.
It's not generally illegal unless there is an order made under a specific section of the Public Order Act.
So we could do that. So we could, because that's the point, Colin. Because half of this lot would go away. Those kind of crusty little vegan nepo babies in Glasgow that we saw there. The point why the only reason they were doing that, standing next to a sign that says "Glory to our martyrs," was because they had their masks on because they didn't want Mummy and Daddy to find out. So if they were demasked, then they wouldn't do it.
Yeah, and who does that lie with? That does lie with the police. The power is with the police to apply for that order for that particular march. And we saw it at the Epping protests. Now, whether that was aimed at the protesters against the hotel or whether it was the Antifa or the other lot that came along, I'm not sure. But they did put an order in place for a couple of occasions with those protests at Epping. I think, and I think a lot of people probably think, it would be a good idea for all protests and a condition of all protests, and that can be done. But again, it comes down to the will to do it. And if the will's not there with chief constables to do that, then that's what we have a government for. That's what we have central leadership and direction for, is to say, this is how we need this country to be policed. This is how we want you to do it.
Yeah, but because the problem with Sir Keir Starmer is he'll U-turn on it. So police officers will go in, and then before you know it, in a year's time, the police officers end up being prosecuted for ripping a keffir off somebody's face. But, Colin, thank you very much. As ever, Colin Sutton there, former UK Police and Crime Advisor. Right, I've got a big second hour coming your way. Bit of this.
Stamp duty, ECHR, tax on education. Ban doctors from going on strike.
Well, stamp duty, gone. Doctors striking, gone. Migrants claiming benefits, gone. Did Kemi Badenoch's speech actually win people round? Plus, shocking details here. The Islamist in Manchester told police he was an Islamist extremist. Why are they only telling us now?
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good evening. This is your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. There is a little bit of rain pushing its way southwards across northern parts through tonight into tomorrow, but many places staying largely dry. The rain in the north is due to a frontal system that's already made its way in across northern and western Scotland. And with this, we're seeing the winds strengthening further as we go through the night. Risk of gales in some exposed spots. The rain does also edge its way southwards into southern parts of Scotland, perhaps northern England and Northern Ireland as we head towards dawn tomorrow. But further south across much of England and Wales, staying largely dry, some clear spells around, and with light winds, clear spells, temperatures are going to drop and there could be some locally dense patches of fog forming as we head through the early hours of tomorrow morning. Otherwise, through tomorrow morning, then a mostly dry start across much of Scotland, the rain having pushed its way in towards the south. And so the borders area waking up to a bit of a damp picture, and also quite damp across Northern Ireland. And there will be a few spots of rain across some parts of northern England where the cloud is thick enough. But across the rest of England and Wales, really, it's a dry start to the day, and there will be some sunshine around. And so that sunshine should help clear any mist and fog patches that do develop overnight. Staying pretty grey, quite murky with low cloud and drizzly rain across Northern Ireland, southern Scotland, parts of northern England and perhaps the far north of Wales as well through tomorrow. Otherwise, a generally dry picture, often quite cloudy, but there should be some sunshine breaking through, and in the sunshine feeling relatively warm, with temperatures in the high teens for most of us. Overnight, there will be a bit more damp weather pushing into parts of western Scotland. That will clear, though, as we go through into Friday. And so actually Friday for many, away from perhaps Orkney and Shetland, where there'll be a few showery bursts of rain around, actually Friday looks like a largely dry day with some decent sunshine on offer. Quite a bit of cloud to come as we go through this weekend, particularly on Sunday, but most of us will see the sunshine at times. Bye-bye.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
You could bank an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. And if that wasn't enough, you'll also get to drive away in this brand new motorhome. This brand new 2025 Benimar Primero could be yours. It comes with all the mod cons you'd expect from a vehicle worth over £74,000 and comfortably sleeps 4 people. This prize package is worth over £104,000. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's 10 p.m. I'm Patrick Christys, and breaking tonight, 1,000 illegal migrants crossed the English Channel today alone, and well, this is the big GB News exclusive. Is a UK-trained ex-member of the Afghan Special Forces actually now a human trafficker bringing illegals into Britain? Also,
Conference, the next Conservative government will abolish stamp duty on your home.
Has Kemi Badenoch just given Nigel Farage a run for his money? Plus. I cannot wait to talk about this. The Manchester jihadi called 999 whilst he was killing Jews to say that he was a member of Islamic State. Also, it turns out he's got 3 wives, by the way, which is also illegal. Why are we still not being told definitively that this guy is an Islamist terrorist? I've got all of tomorrow's newspaper front pages, and feast your eyes on this. The breaking news happening right now is this. Sir Keir Starmer is being called out on the front of the Daily Telegraph by the former head of the civil service. He does not believe Sir Keir Starmer's explanation about this Chinese spy scandal. I tell you what, this has got all the makings of something big here. What's going on with Comrade Starmer? But let's get to my panel now. We've got the Director of Popular Conservatives, Mark Littlewood, businessman and activist Adam Brooks, and journalist Nina Mishkov. And what on earth is going on in Big Brother?
You said, but you haven't got a willy.
Get ready, Britain, here we go. Has Kemi Badenoch just given Nigel Farage a run for his money? Next.
Patrick, thank you. The top stories. GB News can exclusively reveal that more than 1,000 small boat migrants have crossed the Channel today. It takes the total for the year to more than 35,400. The figure brings this year's total around 1,500 short of last year's entire figure, a major blow to the government's pledge to smash the gangs. Maritime sources warn crossings could surpass last year's total within days, with more clear weather ahead. Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood says the crossings are utterly unacceptable, and she insists the UK will restore order to its borders. Kemi Badenoch has vowed to abolish stamp duty, calling it a bad tax, as she delivered her first keynote speech as Conservative leader in Manchester. She's promising a new economic golden rule, splitting savings between cutting the deficit and lowering taxes, and pledging £47 billion in cuts, with £9 billion in new spending. Ms Badenoch told party members only the Conservatives can restore a strong economy and secure borders, accusing Labour of a borrowing and tax doom loop. Ms Badenoch vowed to save Britain from decline.
Time and time again, guided by our values and our principles, we have steered this country through its darkest days. And today, we must be ready to do the same again. Because we are the only party that has the vision, the courage, and the competence to tear up a broken political model, deliver a new blueprint for our country, and together take Britain into an era of prosperity and security.
The man who carried out the Manchester synagogue attack made a 999 call in which he pledged allegiance to the so-called Islamic State group. Jihad al-Shami was shot dead by police outside the Heaton Park Hebrew Congregation Synagogue after a car and knife attack that saw 2 Jewish men killed. The call was made after al-Shami's car hit a wall after he drove into worshippers. Melvin Kravitz, 66, and 53-year-old Adrian Dolby died in the attack. Meanwhile, in a fresh update today, police said 4 more people arrested during the investigation were set to be released without charges. Donald Trump says he could visit the Middle East on Sunday, as he says talks are going very well. Speaking at the White House this evening, the US president said a ceasefire deal is very close. That's as a senior Hamas official said in Egypt today that Hamas and Israel have exchanged lists of detainees to be released on the basis of agreed criteria and numbers. The statement came after the second day of indirect Gaza ceasefire talks between Hamas and Israel, mediated by Egypt and Qatar, which concluded yesterday. The statement also mentioned that the Hamas delegation demonstrated the sense of responsibility required to achieve necessary progress and finalise the agreement. Currently, mediators are working to remove obstacles to the implementation of the ceasefire agreement. And just some breaking news to finish with. French President Emmanuel Macron will name a new Prime Minister within 48 hours, the Élysée Palace has said, fending off speculation that fresh elections could be imminent. Earlier today, outgoing Prime Minister Sébastien Lecornu said the possibility of dissolving Parliament was beginning to fade following talks with political parties over the last 2 days. Those are the latest headlines. For now, more from me in an hour.
You can now watch GB News live across the United States of America and the world on Truth Plus. Scan the QR code to find out more or visit gbnews.com/truth.
Good evening. Busy hour coming your way. Huge revelations on the front of the Daily Telegraph that the former head of the civil service who worked under Sir Keir Starmer is now openly questioning the narrative about the China spy scandal. What is going on there, everybody? What is going on there? And why are we still scratching around for a motive when the jihadi Manchester terror attacker called police to tell them that he was stabbing Jews on behalf of Islamic State? But we'll get to those things, because is today the day that Kemi Badenoch started giving Nigel Farage a run for his money? Here is what the Tory party say they now stand for.
Stamp duty is a bad tax. It is an unconservative tax. The next Conservative government will abolish stamp duty on your home.
Stamp duty, gone.
On Sunday, I announced our plan to take the UK out of the ECHR, to scrap the Human Rights Act, to deport 150,000 illegal immigrants. This is a plan, not a slogan.
ECHR, gone, and she'll deport 150,000 people a year.
To fix our country, we must reverse Labour's measures. We will cancel their vindictive tax on education.
20% VAT hike on private school fees, gone.
Industrial action has kept waiting lists high for far too long. Enough is enough. We will ban doctors from going on strike.
It will be illegal for doctors to strike.
Quick as possible, all right? We're literally just search your pockets, search you. You've got a nice warm coat as well.
Yeah, nice warm coat, massive knife as well. Stop and search will be tripled, and...
That is why today I will also declare a national energy emergency. We will drill, baby, drill.
She will drill for our oil and gas, go big on nuclear and scrap the carbon tax on electricity and the levy on wind and solar power, basically bringing down your energy bills. She's going to reverse Labour's farm tax and also remove business rates for high street shops. Also,
meet the jobless Phillips family, who have lived off state benefits for the last 20 years.
There's nothing to encourage me to go back to work. I'd just rather lie in bed and do nothing.
people with minor mental health problems won't be able to have benefits for life, and she'll get rid of motability vehicles for anyone other than the really needy. Why?
We will restrict motability vehicles to people with serious disabilities. Those cars are not for people with ADHD.
Good, otherwise I'll have a Ferrari. Oh, and this lot will be out on their backsides.
I am terrified every day. I am constantly in my overdraft. I'm always worried that one crisis is just going to leave me homeless.
Anyway, she's going to sack about a third of the civil service. And this, of course, is on top of Robert Jenrick saying this.
We will reverse the constitutional vandalism of Tony Blair and New Labour. The Lord Chancellor will once again appoint the judges, no more quangos, and they will be instructed never to permit political activists of any political hue to don the wig ever again.
Yeah, dodgy, hard-left, pro-migration judges gone. So, to summarise, what the Tories want you to think is that if you would like to aspire one day to send your kids to a private school, to aspire to get a house or get a bigger house, if you want welfare cuts, if you want cheaper energy bills, if you want to leave the ECHR and have mass deportations, then they are your party. She's also made a point of mentioning the team that she has around her.
Together, we Conservatives will save Britain from that fate. And we can do it together because we are a strong team. My fantastic shadow cabinet, Mel, Chris, Claire, Laura, Rob, Andrew, both of them, James, both of them, Mims, Jessie Stewart, all of you, thank you.
Now, the reason why she's done that is because she wants to make the point that Reform does not yet have a shadow cabinet. Look, what I want to know from you is this. Are you willing to forgive the Conservatives for the absolute mess they made of Britain, or is Kemi Badenoch just shouting into the void? Let's get the thoughts of my panel. Director of Popular Conservatives, Mark Littlewood, businessman and activist Adam Brooks, and journalist Nina Mishkov. Now, I hope you don't mind, but Adam, I want to come to you first on this because I think there's a relevance here for you. I think, you know, you've obviously pretty pro-reform, right?
Yeah.
But you're the type of person that Kemi Badenoch today wanted to win back. So has that worked?
So you've got to remember, from the age of 18 to about 40, I voted Conservative. And there is no chance in hell that I would vote for them again. At the end of the day, the last sort of 7 or 8 years, they've absolutely annihilated this country with false promises and lies. They was telling us they was going to bring down immigration, and it just went through the roof. And unfortunately now, the damage is so bad and the problems we're seeing, you have to lay at the Conservative door. Now, look, if it was between Conservatives and Labour, I'd have to hold my nose and vote Conservative. But there is Reform. Now, Reform have said they're going to get rid of inheritance tax. That's a great thing, because I worked my whole life to try and give my kids a better future. So that would save there. I believe Reform will probably follow suit with this stamp duty or something very similar.
I think they're going to have to, actually.
Look, so there is nothing really Kemi Badenoch can say that would get me to vote for the Conservatives. I don't believe she will be a leader in the next 6 months either. Well, so she can say what she wants, you know?
Yeah, I'll be honest with you, Mark. I mean, look, you know, as a new dad, yeah, I was looking at it and I was thinking, well, I would like to have the option, maybe, to send him to a private school, which with this extra 20% VAT thing is not happening. It's not happening.
Yep.
And if we were to decide to have another child, we would need a bigger flat, which at the moment, with the amount of stamp duty that we're paying on, again, could not happen. So that actually looked quite appealing, that.
Yeah, look, despite the fact that she hasn't won back Adam's support, which might take some time, Kemi has had, by far and away, her best day as Conservative Party leader, by far and away. A lot of Conservative delegates saying this was the best Tory Party leader speech since Margaret Thatcher. Oof. And if you think of all of the things that could have gone wrong at conference, people murmuring about her leadership, any sort of gaffes or mistakes or contradictions, she avoided all of those. And what she's trying to do is to position the Tory party as being on the side of aspiration, for the workers, not the shirkers. That is her pitch. And I think there's also, associated with that, there is a Conservative, maybe not strategy, but belief or hunch that over the coming year or two, the bigger and bigger focus in people's minds is going to be the economy, perhaps more so even than immigration. And if the economy becomes by far and away the #1 issue, she's hoping she set out her stall to be the most credible of the party leaders, and emphatically an option on the ballot paper that will be for less spending and lower taxes. Something that Reform, I think, need to catch up with, Adam, actually have been quite spendthrift rather than promising spending reductions. Will that work? I don't know. It's a very long road back for the Conservative Party, very long road back indeed. But she's probably left Manchester today feeling that her party is united and willing to give a fair crack of the whip in the coming weeks and months.
Yeah, I mean, it was quite easy to do a better speech than what Sir Keir Starmer did, mainly because at no point in that speech did she entirely make up an interaction that she had with a random lady in Oldham that then turned out to be false. Remember when Keir Starmer said he'd been round to that lady in Oldham's house and that he'd sat down and had tea and biscuits, it was all lovely, and then it turned out that actually he'd called her a racist and she booted him out, vowing to never vote Labour again. So Kemi Badenoch didn't manage to do any of that. Do you think that people will vote for her off the back of what they've heard today?
I think she saved her own skin for the moment. I think she's had a temporary sort of, reprieve, as it were, in that because people were saying, well, she won't be there by Christmas, come November when it's a year and then the time for the letters to go in and all of that. And I think she's got herself a temporary reprieve until the next May and the council elections. Abolishing stamp duty is a genius thing, but where she's going to find 48 billion down the back of the sofa is extraordinary.
Massive welfare cuts.
What she says is a couple of things. So drill, baby drill, so that increases the amount of money there as well. Welfare cuts, which is what you've just said there. Slashing the civil service by a third. A couple of others knocking about as well, I think.
Just as a businessman, if you create more transactions, more property transactions, people will do them up and go and spend money with builders, merchants. So you get money back that way.
We all understand that. But the thing is, she says she stands for stronger borders and a stronger economy. Now, the reason that the Tories got a kicking was because of those two things were completely destroyed. Stronger borders. Boris Johnson destroyed that, supposed to take back control, and with Brexit we then lost control of and the boat situation happened, and then with legal migration he just threw the floodgates open. So that was stronger borders and a stronger economy. I hate to say this, but Liz Truss crashed it, and so therefore, in the public's eye, the Conservatives, on 40 years, culminated in complete disaster, which is why we're still trying to build ourselves up from that disastrous situation.
I think you've got to try and walk a mile in somebody else's shoes. What would you do if you were Kemi Badenoch? People are sort of saying, oh well, the public aren't listening, so she's supposed to not bother delivering a speech today?
No, I'm saying she's saved her own skin today.
And she has now sketched out where the Tories got things wrong. They didn't cut spending, they didn't cut tax, they didn't control the borders, they got wedded to ECHR. That's a good start. You can't erase the past, you can only work from here.
No, I agree, but then will the public have forgiven them for that? That's the point.
Can't do anything about that.
And I could bring you on this because, as well, a businessman, so the business rates, I think she's just going to scrap them, I think, for you. With the energy stuff, should bring your energy bills down, which would be a good thing. So there's lots of stuff there. Is it for you? Is it that you don't?
There's a lot of things here that would make me a lot better off, or mean that I would survive as a publican, which at the moment I'd be amazed if I'm going to survive as a publican in the next sort of 6-7 years. But look, one thing I will say, it's all right making these promises, and I believe her. I do believe her. Her party will not let half of these things through the party. Let's remember, half the Conservative MPs should be Lib Dems. They're wets. At the end of the day, to try and leave the ECHR, they won't get that through the Conservative Party. We've got Robert Jenrick, who I like, Chris Philp, I like. There is a few MPs that I look and think, yeah, I like you. You're saying the right things. But that's not a whole party. And the trust in Tory brand, for me, has gone.
No, I can understand that. A lot of voters will feel that way.
Let's not forget that we're still 4 years to go. Who knows what's going to happen? And the stamp duty thing, it's said within the first Parliament, if they got in, it's not even going to be in the first budget.
But she's been pretty strong on Adam's point. If, as a Conservative, you're not in favour of leaving the ECHR, you will not be allowed to be a Tory candidate. I mean, that is a pretty disciplinarian approach.
Yeah,
pretty strong.
Sorry, have I missed something there? Because I was so is that right then, that the stamp duty thing is not going to be in her first budget?
They haven't made it play. It will happen at some point in the Parliament. It's also worth pointing out it's the abolition of stamp duty on your primary property. If you want to buy a second, third, or fourth property, you'll still be.
I'd like to be in that position to have that problem. But at the end of the day,
but it is at least. But it's not.
I speak to a lot of property experts who will not move. Or haven't moved.
So this will get the housing market going again.
She's absolutely collapsing because people do not want to spend their stamp duty on the next property.
She says she wants to save Britain from decline. She'll be the first Tory Prime Minister who's actually managed that in years and years and years, because they created the decline, and that's what we are trying to resolve now.
The one thing that stood out for me today when I was listening to that speech was, and look, I've been very critical of the Tories and everything, and obviously very critical of Labour and things, and broadly speaking in favour of a lot of the stuff that we've heard of reform recently. And I think that taps in personally, on a personal note, purely because I've just been so utterly frustrated by the two major parties historically, because they think they've got us into a bit of a mess. I did listen to that speech today, and I heard aspiration. I heard if you are thinking about maybe trying to get on a bit, whereas Labour want to, you know, they want to tax the living daylights out of you if you want to send your kids to a private school. You know, they're looking at clobbering you if you want to move house and all of that stuff. And I thought, I just heard that, and I thought actually that was quite optimistic, and it painted a key point of difference for me.
But one thing I will say, looking at the empty conference halls in the Tory conference, you know, that signals what the nation is thinking right now.
It's a long road back.
Yeah, no one is thinking about voting Conservative.
Let's see what happens.
It's a long road back.
Let's see what happens with these polls. Just very quickly, sorry, because I'm going to shout here, but another thing that I know will have resonated with a lot of Conservative voters or people who are on the fence was at least her expressing a desire to get the deficit under control. Because we haven't really heard that from a lot of other people, unless I've missed it, and actually people don't want us to end up in a situation where all our debts get called in and we get turned into Venezuela. So, look, wait and see. Very keen to see what the GB News viewers and listeners think about this, because I know there's a lot of strong feeling, both negative and positive, about the Tories. Anyway, talking about things that, you know, you might be able to aspire towards, here is the Great British Giveaway. Massive motorhome, loads of cash. Here's how you can be in it to win it.
You're not going to want to miss our greatest Great British giveaway so far. You could bank an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. And if that wasn't enough, you'll also get to drive away in this brand new motorhome. With thanks to Marquis Leisure, this brand new 2025 Benimar Primero could be yours. It comes with all the mod cons you'd expect from a vehicle worth over £74,000 and comfortably sleeps 4 people. This prize package is worth over £104,000. And remember, if you can dream it, you can drive it away. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. The winner will be contacted live on GB News, week commencing 10th of November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
All right, OK, look, very shortly, big breaking news, damning news for Sir Keir Starmer on the front of the Daily Telegraph. The former head of the Civil Service, who's worked for Sir Keir Starmer, has openly challenged Starmer's claims about this China spy trial. He's directly contradicted the Prime Minister's excuses so far. Essentially, he's saying it's not true. What's going on, Comrade Starmer? But before that... This is breaking, and I don't understand why we didn't find this out straight away. The Syrian jihadi who killed people in Manchester called police to tell them that he was working for Islamic State, and he had 3 wives, by the way. Did he get married at one of those Sharia courts that doesn't exist? But why were they holding that information back from us? Was it to not stoke racial tension? Stay tuned.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk
No,
now?
that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, this Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There will be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
So, it is really, really tough, but it's also tough for people who are blind, people who are like pushing buggies, wheelchair users. I mean, my late father was a wheelchair user, and, back in the day, we'd have to sort of get him off the road, and then we'd be in the road, and then we'd have to get him back up onto the pavement again. And that's a big price to pay for somebody who's not prepared to walk around the block and thinks they have the right to, park on the pavement.
Maria, how do you think it should work? Do you think this needs to be a national ban on pavement parking, or do you think it should be led by councils, so councils decide area by area where you're allowed to park?
I think it should be a mix. I think what we should do is have a blanket ban on pavement parking, and then what councils can do is, there's certain roads, I mean, there's one here in Exeter where the road is very narrow and the pavements are very wide. I'm not quite sure why, but, you know, it's perfectly safe to park on there. So, like, a street like that would be fine. And I think one of the problems at the moment is legislation. It's just so unclear, because there's this rule which says that you must not park on the pavement in London and Scotland, but you should not do it elsewhere. So it becomes a bit of a moral maze. And I think that, you know, just to make that clearer about what people should do, because a lot of people sort of think, well, you know, I can do it. And of course, you know, traffic wardens can't do anything about it.
GB News, the People's Channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
There you go. That's the front page of tomorrow's Daily Telegraph. Huge story there. The former head of the civil service has questioned the Prime Minister's explanation on why this China spy trial collapsed. So if Sir Keir Starmer is now being called out by the head of the Crown Prosecution Service, the Director of Public Prosecutions and the former head of the civil service, I'm sorry, who do you believe? This is huge. But before we get to that, a shocking development this evening, although in a sense obviously not that shocking actually. The Manchester synagogue attacker Jihad al-Shami made a 999 call midway through his horrifying assault. He pledged allegiance to Islamic State. According to The Sun, he told the 999 operator that he had killed 2 Jews in the name of Islamic State. Well, a spokesperson for counter-terrorism police at North West confirmed the call was made after al-Shami's car hit a wall after he drove into the worshippers, so presumably before he got out and started stabbing people. Now, it might have been glaringly obvious to most of us that he was motivated by Islamist ideology, but the police, the government, and let's be honest with you as well, some of the presenters on the establishment media channels refused to acknowledge it.
When I look at the front page of the Mail this morning, we still don't know the motivations. We still actually don't know the religion of the person that's been named for the attack. They say he was an Islamic terrorist.
Yeah, and it turns out he really was. But I'm joined now by I hope you don't mind me introducing you like this, by the way, the former Islamist extremist, Sahil Ahmed. Thank you very much. Good to see you again.
Likewise.
OK, so were the police not telling us about this phone call, do you think, where he's pledged allegiance to ISIS, said why he's doing it, because they didn't want to stoke racial tensions?
I don't believe that was the reason. It clearly seems to be for operational reasons. Now, for various reasons, the counter-terrorism policing don't share information immediately. Often they do a network sweep. They ensure any associates, if there's anyone else who might have been involved, are kind of interrogated, disrupted, and releasing any kind of evidence that they might have might prejudice those interrogations. Now, so I don't think that that was kind of politically motivated in any way. However, I do disagree with the nature in which these things are generally handled. I think that maybe there could be more of an explanation from the authorities. They could easily say, well, we have evidence and we think we know what the motive was, but we can't explain for these reasons. Just explaining that would dispel a lot of kind of fears and a lot of concerns. And I feel that sometimes we're just very bad at public messaging in this country.
You mentioned that public messaging. I want to give us an example. This clip blew my mind, actually. It was earlier today, and it's the police chief at Greater Manchester Police. Just listen to this.
Minutes after the first call was made to GMP, and as firearms officers were making their way to the scene, al-Shami called 999, claiming responsibility for the attack. He also pledged allegiance to Islamic State. We are more confident that he was influenced by extreme Islamist ideology, and the 999 call forms part of this assessment. It's important to stress that we look across all the evidence gathered in order to make our assessment of the motivation behind the attack.
Sorry, am I missing something there? The Go Police says the guys pledged allegiance to ISIS. They believe that it was Islamist extremism, but they're still looking at evidence to try to establish a motive.
I feel like it's in terms of, again, public messaging, the wording there could have been a bit clearer. But yeah.
Seems a bit bizarre, doesn't it? Do you think that there is a bit of a climate of fear when it comes to whether it's police or the government? I mean, I don't think Sir Keir Starmer has actually called it out for what it is yet, has he?
Unfortunately, and this has been my experience in my counter-extremism work, there is still a hesitancy on the part of the public, and especially kind of the establishment, essentially, on kind of discussing Islamism and naming it. Not as comfortable as they might feel about naming the far right, for instance. But I think that's on part due to a number of reasons. And one is kind of historical, because of our history with fascism in Europe, or kind of what I refer to as kind of colonial guilt over our history. But at the same time, it's also the fact that in our secularized societies, we often feel very uncomfortable discussing religion, right? And people just don't want to raise it. But the last thing I want to mention is that often people don't even know what they're looking for, because they don't know anything about Islamist extremism. So they just feel uncomfortable.
Well, this actually leads me perfectly onto what I wanted to ask you about. So, are ISIS very much back here in Britain in a big way, then? Is this what's going on?
I am not entirely sure. It's something that I'm not fully aware of, but I do know that Islamic State, ISIS, is now growing in certain parts in Africa, and they're kind of gathering again.
Whereabouts? Do you have any ideas?
I think it was in the Sahel region, but don't quote me on that.
No, it's interesting because, again, it's one of those things from my perspective. It kind of, I remember when ISIS was the big deal, and then it seemed to have gone away. So, can I also ask you something about this guy? The jihadi, had 3 wives apparently. Now, I'm sorry, I thought it was illegal in Britain, my head immediately went to this idea that potentially this is the kind of thing that goes on at one of those Sharia courts that we're told don't exist, but do, don't they?
Unfortunately, that often is the case, and it's often the case that sometimes with extremists, what they'll do, especially in the Muslim community, in my community, they'll kind of have a legal British kind of appearance where officially they're only married to one person, but through the kind of the Islamic courts, they essentially then have multiple wives. That is exceptionally rare. Genuinely, that's exceptionally rare, even amongst the extremists, but it does happen.
Can I ask you a question? So it's the last question, this, but do you think that the ordinary, well-intentioned Muslim community does enough to call out extremism or highlight it?
It's a bit of a complicated answer there, but if push come to shove, I would say yes and no. Yes, in terms of the intention is there. But often what I find is that Muslims like myself don't even know who the extremists are, because firstly, the extremists not only remain hidden with respect to the rest of the British community, but they also remain hidden with respect to your everyday British Muslim. They know that if they make themselves obvious, that they'll then kind of be shunned, and also that they run the risk of being found out by the authorities. But at the same time, I feel like sometimes we can be very defensive as Muslims. Whenever we see kind of Islamist extremists or Islamism, as opposed to Islam, being criticized, we get worried that Islam's going to be looking bad, and kind of, from a misguided sense, then kind of deflect any criticism, which I think is more harmful to us, because the sooner we deal with the Islamist threat, the safer we'll be.
Well, it would sort a lot of things out, actually. Yeah, thank you very much. Sahel Ahmed there, talking very candidly, so much appreciated. Right, coming up, we're just going to go straight in with the papers, that big breaking news. Sir Keir Starmer is under all sorts of bother over this Chinese spy scandal. What's going on, comrade?
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
There are a couple of watch points with the weather across southern Europe as we go through tomorrow. Heavy thundery rain around eastern Spain, and Storm Barbara affecting southeastern parts of Europe, pushing into western Turkey, could bring 100 to 150 millimetres of rain. Elsewhere, lots of dry weather, but like I said, across eastern Spain towards the Balearics, heavy thundery rain through the next few days could bring 200 millimetres or so in some places, which is around 3 times the October average. I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Good evening. This is your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. There is a little bit of rain pushing its way southwards across northern parts through tonight into tomorrow, but many places staying largely dry. The rain in the north is due to a frontal system that's already made its way in across northern and western Scotland, and with this we're seeing the winds strengthening further as we go through the night, risk of gales in some exposed spots. The rain does also edge its way southwards into southern parts of Scotland, perhaps northern England and Northern Ireland as we head towards dawn tomorrow, but further south across much of England and Wales, staying largely dry, some clear spells around, and with light winds, clear spells, temperatures are going to drop and there could be some locally dense patches of fog forming as we head through the early hours of tomorrow morning. Otherwise, through tomorrow morning, then a mostly dry start across much of Scotland, the rain having pushed its way in towards the south, and so the borders area waking up to a bit of a damp picture, and also quite damp across Northern Ireland, and there will be a few spots of rain across some parts of northern England where the cloud is thick enough, but across the rest of England and Wales really it's a dry start to the day, and there will be some sunshine around, and so that sunshine should help clear any mist and fog patches that do develop overnight. Staying pretty grey, quite murky with low cloud and drizzly rain across Northern Ireland, southern Scotland, parts of northern England and perhaps the far north of Wales as well through tomorrow. Otherwise, a generally dry picture, often quite cloudy, but there should be some sunshine breaking through, and in the sunshine feeling relatively warm with temperatures in the high teens for most of us. Overnight there will be a bit more damp weather pushing into parts of western Scotland. That will clear though as we go through into Friday, and so actually Friday for many, away from perhaps Orkney and Shetland where there'll be a few showery bursts of rain around, actually Friday looks like a largely dry day with some decent sunshine on offer. Quite a bit of cloud to come as we go through this weekend, particularly on Sunday, but most of us will see the sunshine at times. Bye-bye.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, DC.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys Tonight. We've got the front pages for you now, and you're not going to want to miss these. So here we go. The first one that we've got for you is the Metro. Now, My Maddie Hoax Agony. So this is a story by Kate McCann about how a Polish girl turned up at her door demanding a DNA test. There we go. The I paper. Badenoch's move to axe stamp duty piles pressure on Reeves's budget. The Independent. Badenoch bets the House on promise to end stamp duty. Right, but here we go. The Daily Telegraph. Simon Case, the former head of the Civil Service, joins the head of the Crown Prosecution Service and the head, and the Director of Public Prosecutions in essentially accusing Sir Keir Starmer of not telling the truth about the Chinese spy scandal. So, Mark, I'm going to throw this over to you, if that's all right. How damning is this? What's he saying? Why is it important?
OK, it gets quite technical. So on these spying allegations, the Crown Prosecution Service were minded to prosecute. But what they needed was some testimony from the government saying that, yes, China is an enemy of the nation. That was not forthcoming, to the complete surprise of the Crown Prosecution Service, who then said, well, if you can't establish that, we've got to drop the case. So the suspicion, the concern, the allegation is that senior members of the government decided to prioritise our good relations with China over national security, because this would have caused an enormous disruption of relations with China, who, you know, we're reliant on to hit Ed Miliband's mad net zero targets and all of the rest of it. So that's the sting of the allegation. Now, Starmer's defence so far is that the Tories didn't provide that testimony when they were in government and the case first came forward. But that, to my mind, is no reason why the Labour government couldn't have done it when we need the testimony now. Exactly. Why wasn't it forthcoming? So I think the Prime Minister, Jonathan Powell, his National Security Advisor, Herma, the Attorney General, are going to have to explain precisely why the CPS did not receive fairly straightforward testimony that China is an enemy state.
And what the former head of the civil service is also saying, which is that that we have previously publicly described China as a threat for years.
Yeah, quite.
We have openly done that in the past. So it would not have been...
But individuals, not as a government.
No, as a government.
Not as a government.
As a government, unambiguously, yes. I mean, it's getting to the, you know, for example, Tom Tugendhat is writing in the Telegraph today. I haven't read his piece, but it's referenced on the front page. He says he was told by top intelligence officials that this case was a slam dunk, this spying case, and the only explanation for its collapse was that someone in government made a choice that preserving good relations with China was more important than national security.
That because, you know, the pragmatism is that we need China in terms of trade, but China has always been a national security. Everybody knows that. I mean, I went to China in 1979 when they were still wearing Mao uniforms and all of that. And you know, from that point onwards, it's everyone knows. But they're not prepared to say. The Conservative government did not say they are an enemy state, and neither has the Labour government. It's not necessarily individuals have said it.
Use the word enemy. It's a level of threat. This is getting very messy for Sir Keir Starmer now.
Extremely.
Because he's being contradicted openly by several very, very, very important people. And there's also the stories in the Telegraph earlier today about Jonathan Powell, who's ironically named the national head of national security, has some kind of secret meeting with the Chinese not so long ago.
Look, over the last 15 months, I think they've been in power now. We've seen lies after lies from this Labour government and from Keir Starmer. Now, if it turns out he's lied on this or misrepresented this, then he's a goner. At the end of the day, we also know there's a donations story brewing in the background as well that hasn't been closed. So we've got the donations so-called scandal. We've got a China spy scandal. I can't see if people like the head of the CPS and the head of the civil service are coming out and saying what he's saying is not true. There has to be legs in it.
What he's actually saying, what he actually said today in India, was that you couldn't. I mean, this is obviously an excuse. You couldn't prosecute people for something that you have to judge it on the time the crime was committed, and the time the crime was committed, allegedly, was China had not been labelled an enemy state. It still hasn't been labelled an enemy state.
So why is Tom Tugendhat saying it's a slam dunk? Why is he in Duncan Smith's thread today on Twitter? Apparently it is
because they have said individually, but neither their government nor our government
I think that's angels on ahead of a pin. I mean, the question is whether spying on the British government and providing that information to China should be considered a threat to national security. It seems to me open and shut that should be considered a threat to national security.
Can I ask you something on this? Because I think you've been very, very generous here, which is that the reason that Labour may have done this is because they didn't want to damage our relations with China. There is, of course, a more sinister explanation, which no doubt will be denied. It is that people right at the heart of the British government are seriously compromised by China and may indeed even be assets.
Compromised in what way? Define compromised.
Intelligence-wise, compromised, spies, whatever else. I'm saying that would be another explanation.
Well, of course you can't rule it out, but I mean, it seems high. I mean, you know, it's pretty far-fetched.
Why? The Chinese have been absolutely brilliant at infiltrating senior
they're
echelons
amazing.
of British society. Incredible at it. Far better than the KGB were back in the time of the Cold War. And we had enormous problems with the KGB infiltrating our security services.
China own half our industries over here.
The Chinese play the long game. I won't have TikTok on my phone because it's Chinese. What, you know, have you got TikTok?
I'd love to see you dancing on TikTok.
I'd like to see you dancing anywhere, but...
I would say the PM's got to get ahead of this now, because his explanation in India was not good enough. Well, he's
not living it up.
The
He's
Attorney
working
General
very
and his
hard
National
on behalf
Security
of this
Advisor have got to
country.
explain this, and it's going to require quite an explanation.
Got a trade deal, which the Tories never got with India.
A couple of points of housekeeping also. Both men who we've not named, actually, involved in this, both men who were accused of being spies to China have always denied that that was the case, and now, of course, in one way or another have been vindicated, I suppose. And again, look, we were posing a series of questions there. I am not accusing the heart of the British state of being actual assets for the Chinese Communist Party. So we're just...
And if we go missing tonight on the trains, you know why.
Absolutely, yeah. But anyway, no. But on a serious note, I'm not openly accusing the Prime Minister of being in Chairman Mao's pocket or something. Anyway, coming up, breaking news on the front page of The Sun. Victoria Beckham has spoken about her eating disorder and the abuse she received from cruel trolls for the first time. More on that in a few minutes. Stay tuned.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Talk to our favourite space expert, Andy Lound. Good morning, Andy. Because, some people will say, well, why does it matter? But it changes our perspective, doesn't it, of cosmic evolution?
Yes, good morning, Beth. Yes, it does. It's quite an important discovery. And again, it just shows that science constantly moves on. The instrument they've used, Gravity Plus, has taken the light from 4 major telescopes and actually analysed that of a black hole. And at the centre of the black hole, you have the quasar, which is the active nuclei of a black hole. And surrounding that is a ring of dust and gas, the accretion disk. And it's thought that the black holes were obviously feeding on this, the materials falling into the black hole. Now, that was measured at 800 times the mass of our star, the Sun. However, when they were looking at it very carefully with the new instruments, better resolution, they found that what's quite exciting is the fact that the radiation which surrounds the black hole and part of this accretion disk is actually blasting a lot of this dust and gas out, away from the region. So the electromagnetic radiation and the various interactions is blasting much of this material away, which means, of course, it's not eating up all that material, so the black hole therefore could be up to 10 times smaller than they actually thought. This is a really important discovery because we're trying to understand why there were such massive black holes in the early universe, and our physics wasn't really fitting in with that. But now, with this new instrument and the new measurements we're doing, we're getting a better handle. It does mean, of course, that a lot of the objects we've seen in the early universe now, and looking at those early quasars, we're having to do recalculations and redo a resetting. But it will help the physics of understanding how the early universe formed.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Miriam, you can't be serious. Scrapping the triple lock on state pensions? Madness.
Andrew, we just can't carry on pretending. The numbers just don't add up. We've got to be honest with people. We've got to face the facts. That's what people want.
Well, that's what you get on GB News and on Britain's newsroom. Lively debates, lively conversation.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first, and we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Cates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. I'm going to round up the newspapers, and actually there's a big revelation again. People might be bored about this China thing. I'm certainly not. There's more revelations in the Times. I'll start with the Daily Express. I lack stamp duty to help millions buy a house. Yeah, Kemi Badenoch that. The Guardian. Ministers commit to overhaul of licensing laws in push for growth. Not a flipping boring headline, that is. Ministers commit for overhaul of all the things you could have gone off. Anyway.
We need more than that, just so to let you know.
The Sun. I want Maddie back, calling me mum. So, this is Kate McCann. It's the second national newspaper that she's on the front of. She's decided to stick her head back above the parapet. Not entirely sure why. I don't know. Forgive me if I've not read all this yet, but there doesn't appear to be an anniversary coming up. She disappeared on May the 3rd, 2007.
No, but the lady...
She said it in court.
Oh, is it?
So she's not sat down and given an interview, you know, and said, you know, heart-to-heart thing. She
Apologies. Anyway, devastated Kate McCann yesterday said that she wants... what she wants most is Maddie back. Right. At the time, Badenoch builds case to abolish stamp duty. Now, there's the one down the side there as well. When did the UK decide China was not a threat? Mark, just quickly summarise what the lines are.
Yeah, well, I mean, the Times have asked exactly the right question, trying to catch up with the Telegraph, of course. This is the question. When did the UK decide that China was not a threat? And here's the problem. The Prime Minister's comments appeared to be contradicted by statements between 2021 and last year by the head of MI5, the head of MI6 and the government, which explicitly described China as a threat to national security.
Bingo.
Richard Dearlove, former head of MI6, in an interview earlier, said that the case should now be reopened because what had happened was unthinkable.
There you go.
So we've got people who aren't just like political opponents, like the Conservative front bench. We've now got the former head of MI6, we've got the former head of the Civil Service, we've got the current Director of Public Prosecutions, all going public on this does not add up. That is far worse for the Prime Minister than Chris Philp putting the knife in.
It's actually as serious as it's possible for this to get.
Correct.
That's the most serious cohort of people this country has. I mean, apart from... The next step is the King, basically.
Yeah.
To come out and tell him that he thinks he's done something wrong. So, let me just fill you in on the couple of more front pages. The Daily Mail. Kemi fires up Tories with pledge to scrap hated stamp duty. We've also got this. Victoria Beckham. I secretly suffered from an eating disorder for years. Nina.
Seriously, I mean, I don't think anybody would be amazed by that headline. I mean, you only had to look at her over decades to see that this was not somebody who enjoyed the odd bun, put it that way. So why it's a headline? The reason it's a headline, she's got just had the premiere of her Netflix documentary. There was the one about Beckham.
Another one?
Yeah, but this is on her. That was on him.
What?
This is on her now.
Well, let's actually hope maybe that story helps young girls that think they've got an eating disorder or something like that. Let's spin it that way.
Yes.
And maybe it might save a young girl's life.
That's true. Oh, sorry, I'm not... Sorry, I was... By the way, absolutely, I'm absolutely not diminishing the idea of eating disorders or anything like that. I think for me, it wasn't a shock that Victoria...
No, exactly.
I don't
No surprise, yeah.
Yes. OK, the Mirror. They also go off... If I'd have read this story first, then I wouldn't have messed up what was on the front of the Sun. McCann's trial ordeal. What I want most is for Maddie to be back, calling me mum. Kate tells the court of an anguish over missing girl 18 years on. And it is in relation to a Polish girl who apparently... basically said that she
claimed to be Maddie.
Relentlessly said to the McCanns that she thought that she was their daughter and all of this stuff. So there we go. Right. Yes, I mean, look, interesting spread across the front pages, which is just as well, because we have a whole new hour to do all of them in. Can I thank my panel? It's been eclectic, Miss Nice. Thank you. When we come back in the next hour, all of these Chinese spy revelations for you. So some of the reaction here from Kemi Badenoch. Fascinating to see that economists haven't yet savaged her plans. That's one of the headlines I was expecting. Was then going, we've crunched the numbers on Kemi Badenoch's speech about stamp duty. We can't afford it. It doesn't add up. That hasn't happened yet, which is interesting. I'll give it a little bit of time, but that hasn't happened yet. So we're talking about that. We'll give you the latest on the McCann's trial as well, and much, much more. So it is Patrick Christys Night, late edition, coming your way in the next hour. And then it's the Late Show Live with the one and only Bev Turner. Will Ben Leo survive another protest this evening? Stay tuned to find out.
Today's outlook: cool, calm and completely horizontal. Boxed Aircon sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good evening. This is your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. There is a little bit of rain pushing its way southwards across northern parts through tonight into tomorrow, but many places staying largely dry. The rain in the north is due to a frontal system that's already made its way in across northern and western Scotland, and with this we're seeing the winds strengthening further as we go through the night. Risk of gales in some exposed spots. The rain does also edge its way southwards into southern parts of Scotland, perhaps northern England and Northern Ireland as we head towards dawn tomorrow, but further south across much of England and Wales staying largely dry. Some clear spells around, and with light winds, clear spells, temperatures are going to drop and there could be some locally dense patches of fog forming as we head through the early hours of tomorrow morning. Otherwise, through tomorrow morning then, a mostly dry start across much of Scotland, the rain having pushed its way in towards the south, and so the borders area waking up to a bit of a damp picture, and also quite damp across Northern Ireland, and there will be a few spots of rain across some parts of northern England where the cloud is thick enough, but across the rest of England and Wales really it's a dry start to the day, and there will be some sunshine around, and so that sunshine should help clear any mist and fog patches that do develop overnight. Staying pretty grey, quite murky with low cloud and drizzly rain across Northern Ireland, southern Scotland, parts of northern England and perhaps the far north of Wales as well through tomorrow. Otherwise, a generally dry picture, often quite cloudy, but there should be some sunshine breaking through, and in the sunshine feeling relatively warm with temperatures in the high teens for most of us. Overnight there will be a bit more damp weather pushing into parts of western Scotland. That will clear though as we go through into Friday, and so actually Friday for many, away from perhaps Orkney and Shetland where there'll be a few showery bursts of rain around, actually Friday looks like a largely dry day with some decent sunshine on offer. Quite a bit of cloud to come as we go through this weekend, particularly on Sunday, but most of us will see the sunshine at times. Bye-bye.
Today's outlook: cool, calm and completely horizontal. Boxed Aircon sponsors the weather on GB News.
Okay. Yes, well, coming up on Late Edition, huge revelations on the front of two national newspapers in relation to the Chinese spy scandal. The head of MI6, we've got loads of other people now, big hitters calling out Keir Starmer. He could have to go over the Chinese spy scandal. All of that coming your way and much, much more. So make sure that you stay tuned for Late Edition.
This is your chance to win a motorhome and cash in our biggest giveaway to date. Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, you could be the proud owner of this 2025 Benamar Primero. It comfortably accommodates 4 people and can be driven on your standard driving licence. Plus, you'll also bank an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend on anything you like. Make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome along to what is going to be a stellar edition of Late Edition, breaking literally right now.
Just try and whack it. Yes, this is good. And again. That's it. And again. Try and breathe. Relax.
Well, it's no surprise his political career is on the ropes this evening, is it? Yes, Sir Keir Starmer has now been called out by the former head of the Civil Service and, I believe, the head of MI6 over the explanation